Got it. Okay, we are live. So Scott Shelton, I am so ridiculously excited because we have known each other for so many years. And I am just excited because one of the things that... Got it. Okay, we are live. And so Scott Shelton, I am so ridiculously excited because I got that awful echo. There you go. Whew. So Scott Shelton, he is, well, I'm going to let you share a little bit about your story later. I want to jump right into it because you are a mortgage expert. You've been doing this for many years. How many years? I should ask that.
29 now.
29. I'm at 24 years in real estate as a licensed real estate agent, but also as a real estate investor. And, I love helping people and teaching people. So it's one of the reasons that I've always been so passionate about, SiriusXM. I taught for well over 10 years. And now I want to always make sure that we're helping Facebook, Instagram, all the different places get the information out there so that people can make good decisions in real estate. And mortgages is one of the hottest topics out there. And so I wanted to start, this is going to be dated. I usually try to do as many evergreen things as possible, but I think one thing that's really interesting right now is what is happening with mortgages in the year 2021. What do we want to say? The second year of this health pandemic. And we've had so much craziness with the mortgage moratorium, and interest rates have been historically low, and it's kind of been this incredible market. But I'm curious from your viewpoint, what are you seeing happening right now in year 2021? We're in August 2021. What's happening from the mortgage side for you guys?
Well, Jennifer, it's always a pleasure to be with you. We've known each other for so many years, so thank you again for allowing me to be a part of your team. We're more than halfway through 2021, and it's already been an exciting year. I can honestly say that the mortgage business, real estate overall, is still extremely busy in many, many parts of the country. Inventory is still low. Interest rates are at still a historically low average. And that's exciting news for first-time home buyers and even many buyers who want to refinance. We are starting to see more and more investors enter the market. So I'm really excited about where we are and where we're going. We're going to have a very busy end of the summer and a very, very busy fall 2021.
Oh, I agree. I think it's going to be, and you and I are both in the Washington, D.C. area, which of course we affectionately call the DMV, Washington, D.C., which is not the driver's license place. So many people, if you're listening from wherever you are in the country, or anywhere in the world, the DMV is Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. And our market is such an interesting market for so many reasons. But I'm curious, I want to dig into a few other things that, again, I know will make this dated, but I want to ask a little bit about your viewpoint on, the mortgage moratorium. It's been, well, there's, so I say, first of all, for those who are not paying their mortgages, what are you seeing as far as many people, we were talking about this last week, foreclosures and short sales? Do you predict that you're going to see a lot of those, or has this really prevented that from happening?
It is a mixed bag. I think that's the best way to communicate it. It is a mixed bag. There are quite a few folks still suffering on being able to pay their mortgages. It is difficult to pay. At the same time, delinquencies have not been astoundingly going through the roof. Jennifer, there is some talk that we're going to have some possible or potential foreclosures hit the market. When? We don't know. But there is a lot of talk that there are some foreclosures due to COVID-19 in 2020 and throughout 2021, that there is a room full of foreclosures, if I can phrase it that way, that could potentially be released and hit the market, which could open up the door for a lot of first-time home buyers and potential investor buyers. This moratorium, in all fairness, we never want to see people lose their homes.
No, never.
We work so hard to create a culture, a mortgage culture, a real estate culture where everyone can have the dream of home ownership.
Yeah.
And due to this pandemic and due to employment issues, and it just has unfortunately devastated families, jobs. But I do have some hope. And I think we're going to have a rebound. So we're going in the right direction. So we're going to keep hope positive on this front.
I like that. I know that I'm famous for my yays, and
Yes,
I
you
just
are.
always
Yes, you are.
Yay! So I love keeping hope alive, but it is really interesting the impacts that this market, not only the people who had the mortgage moratorium, but also I'm curious on the investor front, your viewpoint on, now we're looking at well, and of course there's the federal, but then there's, I want to say statewide, but in DC, we're not a state. So barring that little bit of confusion. So what about the investors who their tenants haven't had to pay rent? What is your prediction? Do you guys, I don't know if you're following any statistics on that or any idea on what's going to happen with all of those properties? Do you think that they're going to end up in foreclosure, or do you have any metrics to be gauging that?
The short answer would be yes. We do believe they're going to fall into foreclosure.
Okay.
We do not specifically follow the metrics and statistics on those particular items, but investors purchase properties. They purchase these properties with the hope of appreciation and with the hope that someone else can move into that property and help them pay off that property so that they can have a long-term investment. And now with folks not paying the mortgages or paying their monthly rents on these mortgages to the investors, that puts the investor in a very compromised position. I think we have a lot of savvy investors out there who want to keep their credit in great standing. So they'll do what they need to do to keep that property afloat. But it really creates a very big challenge for them financially and economically each and every month. 3 months, 6 months, okay. But when we start to go 8, 12, 14 months plus, that's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah. It's interesting because I see it from so many different angles, and it makes me think of that, the idea that we are all connected. If your neighbor is having a hard time, guess what? It actually, it impacts you. And I think in the United States, we individuate, we all try to kind of close in, and not, I don't know, it's almost like a racehorse. We're on this race and we put blinders on and we forget to look to our left and to our right and to see what's happening with the neighbors, and really understanding that we're all connected. Whatever is happening is going to impact us. And how can we?
Isn't that so interesting that this pandemic, and we're talking about economics and real estate and financial, but this pandemic has want to cause us to kind of isolate and go inward. But the more we realize what's really going on here, we're so interconnected.
Exactly.
And we need each other.
Yeah, we need each other so badly. And it's interesting, but when I look at the mortgages, from the investor viewpoint, even the first time home buyer, from each different viewpoint, I realize that we are all connected. And with the pandemic, it's made us, I think, I always have been I love to get to know my neighbors, and I constantly, I know this isn't going to surprise you because you've known me for so long, but I love to have to give and to provide random acts of kindness.
Yes.
So for where I'm living, I've been here a couple of years, and every year on random days, I will leave like a potted plant on everybody's, 'cause I live in a cul-de-sac. So my one block little cul-de-sac, I'll go make sure everybody has a new potted plant, or like, and sometimes on Easter morning, I'll go and get, tulips or something, and I'll put it on everybody's front porch. And sometimes I leave a note, sometimes I don't leave a note.
Sure,
Or I'll
sure.
just say happy Easter, or I'll just say have a great day, have a yay day,
Yeah.
or something funny. But I realized even in my neighborhood, and I say even in the fact that it's amazing, if you observe, you will notice, I want to say it's like every so often I'll walk in my neighborhood and I'll be like, oh, I never noticed that tree, but it's a pretty big tree. So it didn't just arrive.
Right, right, right.
And it's the same thing with your neighbors. Oh, did I notice that house is actually vacant
Yes,
now? And
yes.
I was like, and of course I'm I'm licensed real estate agent, so I can look it up, and I'll be like, but anybody can look up in the public records. And I'm like, oh, so I didn't even realize that was actually a rental. That person wasn't an owner. And it made me start realizing, from an owner's viewpoint, um, from a real estate investor's viewpoint, what are the things, how are we interconnected, and how can we help each other
Yeah.
in with the mortgages and stuff. So I know I really wanted to talk a little bit about kind of what's happening out there right now. And of course, when we get at least halfway through to there, I'll open up to questions. So all those guys popping in, we see people popping in and popping out in Clubhouse. We'll definitely answer your questions in a minute. But I wanted to kind of get your idea about what was happening from your viewpoint. The other thing is I want to shift, and we're going to kind of go backwards, because I want to shift and talk about refinances. And then
Yes.
I want to shift and then talk about first-time home buyers and there's so many programs out there that people don't realize are out there. I'm amazed, as you know, I love to do volunteer work for veterans, and veterans, it's amazing to me how many veterans don't know there's a 0 down payment mortgage
Uh-huh.
for them with a USDA loan. And they
Oh,
think,
yeah.
oh, I have to be a farmer, I can't be, and it's what I didn't. So the misconceptions out there for first time home buyers and the mortgages that are out there, I want to talk about that. But before we go there, and before we go to questions, let's talk about refinance. This is like the question over and over I get. And as you know, I mean, I get flooded with hundreds and hundreds of emails about, is it a really good time to refinance? And I'm like, oh my gosh, because I hate answering the question, well, it depends. And yet, as you know, it's like a fingerprint. It depends on what their mortgage is, what the
Sure.
situation is, and all of that kind of stuff. So how do you answer that question? When is it a good time to refinance? What are the indicators that someone should be looking for?
Jennifer, that's a really good question for me. 29 years in the mortgage business, I generally respond, it's always a good time to refinance. However, let's look at the numbers to make sure that it makes sense. It has to make financial sense. But it's always a good time to refinance if the opportunity makes good financial sense. So if we can save X amount of dollars per month, where we don't eat into the equity of your home, interest rates at an all-time low. If you years ago initiated your mortgage with an ARM, an adjustable rate mortgage, and now because 30-year fixed rates are so low and you want to refinance to a fixed rate, now is a great time to do so. We have more people at home, working at home. We have more people due to that because of the pandemic. They're now taking cash out of the equity of their property and refinancing and doing home improvements and paying off debt or consolidating debt. So yes, refinancing is always a great opportunity, but you need to make sure that you're speaking with a professional and experienced lender that can provide you with the answers you need to make an informed decision.
So two things. One of the most important questions, or one of the most, I should say, frequent questions I get is, so for instance, should somebody refinance if it's a full interest rate or full point lower on their mortgage? Usually.
Yeah. General rule of thumb, yeah. But I always put in the caveat, what's the balance on that property?
Yeah.
Because if the balance is lower, let's say 70,000, the impact is not as substantial as a balance that's 400,000.
Yeah.
So again, you've got to make sure you're getting an informed, educated response from the lender that you're dealing with. That is so critical when it comes to refinancing.
Yeah, and the refinancing, so many people I see that they that get excited about I want to say market or marketing or advertised rate. And again, it doesn't always apply to their situation. And so I think that what you just said is so critical to knowing if refinance is the right thing for you to do right now, or if it's something you wait, is you really have to look at those numbers and confront your specific situation with your balance, with the, what's happening in the market, all that kind of stuff. You have to talk to a professional. As you know, I always talk about, you need to create your team, because we want the team, every team person on there, every person that you hire, I want to say hire, whether it's a licensed real estate agent, an attorney, a mortgage specialist, whoever it is, you need to make sure you're talking to a professional. Just like if we had Linda isn't here today, but my tax expert, Linda DeMarlar, she's a tax master's in Rockville, Maryland. And she's funny. One of the things she always talks about is, please do not use a software to advise you on your tax decisions. And the same thing, with real estate. So many times people think, oh, well, we got all these great new sites, I can go look at it myself. And you don't realize, oh dear, that can really get you into trouble, because you're missing the human element of having somebody really look at your situation and analyze it. And I know you have a team of people that help with that. And I mean, that's not something that's a long process, right? You can look at something really quickly and be able to help somebody and advise somebody.
That's true. I have a team of experienced loan officers that can take 20, 30 minutes to evaluate your situation and give you some pertinent feedback.
Yeah.
This is dollars and cents. I mean, this is your mortgage, one of the biggest, if not the biggest investment you have made or will ever make. So it's critical that you speak with someone who has the experience, that can take the time, review your current mortgage statement, review your current interest rate, what your current balance is, what your equity position is, what the current rates are, and do that comparison to say, this is how long it's going to take you. If you refinance your mortgage, you're going to be able to recoup your money in 12 months, or you're going to be able to break even in 14 months, or you're going to break even in 6 years. No, that's not the answer. Right. To take advantage of a refinance opportunity.
Yeah. And I hear that. I mean, from not only my friends, family, clients, they'll say, oh, I just got this in the mail and it says that I can get my mortgage down to, and I won't even say some of the interest rates. And I'm like, okay, yes, that's a marketing piece. That's not necessarily truth for you. I know it has your name on it, and it does feel like that would be the honest truth. But so I guess the other thing is when people are looking at refinancing, I think that it's something where, again, you need to have truth.
Yes.
About what numbers are going to matter. And one of the biggest factors is the closing costs on the refinance. Will you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. Today, with a lot of our systems, depending upon which program you're looking at refinancing into, we can do appraisal property waivers, depending upon the equity in your property. So appraisals generally cost several $100s, anywhere from $350 to $500 on an appraisal. That's part of your closing costs. You have attorney's fees, you have recordation taxes, these fees, these costs, these charges on a refinance are less than what it costs to do a purchase when you initially purchased your home. But when you add up these costs on a refinance, we want to make sure that you're able to break even within, I always tell my customers, within 12 months. So if your current rate versus the new rate and you add in the closing cost, if that difference doesn't allow you to break even within 12 to 14, 15 months, then maybe this is not the right time to take advantage of a refinance opportunity.
I agree. I agree. So that's one of the things that I wanted to just again highlight was the refinances. So often I get that question, oh, it's a whole 1% interest rate lower. And I'm like, okay, but where did you get that information? Did you actually talk to somebody? Or did you, and if you talk to somebody, did they actually look at your current mortgage? Or was it just a marketing, just like a marketing piece you might get in the mail? Getting the true information to make good decisions in real estate has to do with actually getting the real information, so to speak. And so often people overlook that because again, I feel like we are like these horses with blinders on, and we're on a horse race and we're not paying attention to the fact that we need to actually look at the details and make sure that whatever we're looking at is the right thing for us, whatever it is, if you're looking at a refinance. So one other thing about refinance, and then I want to switch topics to first-time home buyers and veterans and such. And then if we have time, I want to switch over to investors and investor loans. And for those who are out there, but again, in this amazing, interesting world, a very interesting, I'm just gonna say interesting. That's the best word I can come up with. This very interesting year, 2021. Yes. But listen, one more thing about refinance. Of course, there's so often people ask about PMI, private mortgage insurance, and refinancing so they can get rid of private mortgage insurance. Will you talk a little bit about that and what is private mortgage insurance, what it takes to get rid of it, and what are some of the restrictions of not being able to get rid of PMI?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of different ways to describe PMI. Private mortgage insurance is placed on a mortgage. A conventional loan is placed on a conventional loan when your down payment is less than 20%. However, we have some really great mortgage insurance companies today. In today's world, I've seen the evolution process over these last 29 years. That you can make a down payment at 5%, not the required 20%, because you don't have to make a 20% down payment anymore to have a mortgage, as long as your credit is in good standing and you have the ability to repay. That's the focus phrase, ability to repay. But at 5% down, we can structure a loan with no mortgage insurance.
Wow.
So 10% down. So 10% down, we can structure a loan with no mortgage insurance. No longer do you have to make 20% down or 20% down payment to have no mortgage insurance. Mortgage insurance is simply default insurance. Should you default on this loan, there's a third party that will ensure the mortgage lender that they don't lose their shirt on that loan. That's the simple language, the best way I would communicate it in layman's terms. So the mortgage insurance companies that we deal with today do a fantastic job analyzing risk, no matter what the down payment is. So if someone came to me today, hey, I did take out a mortgage, it has mortgage insurance. Again, you've got to be talking to a mortgage specialist who is experienced and understands how to look at your situation. How long have you had the property? What's the current market value of the property? What's the current balance on your property? And determine that equity spread to see what your loan to value is, which we as an acronym call an LTV. So once we determine some of these things, we then can make a decision or help you make a decision as the borrower on whether mortgage insurance can be dropped at this specific time, or do you want to make a cash investment into your mortgage to eliminate PMI, private
Ooh.
mortgage insurance. So again, a discussion with someone who's experienced is so critical and so necessary.
And it's so interesting because, again, these are financial decisions that will impact you for years to come.
Yes.
And that's part of the reason that, with I want to have these conversations because so often I'm just absolutely amazed by, and I want to say it, by people that I really look up to. And then I realize, oh my gosh, they really don't understand refinance, and they really don't understand how to make that decision so that it's a good decision that helps them for years to come. And, again, I'm in this field. I've been in here for, many years now. And so for me, it's second nature. And I think it's that way for whatever you do. If you're a dentist or a doctor or, a construction worker, you think about the ins and outs as no big deal. And that's one of the reasons that I want to always continue having conversations about some of the basics. And I want to call them the basics of real estate investing. And one of the biggest barriers I have found, and in my life, as well as clients, friends, family, whatnot, is the idea that I already know all about it. You don't have to tell me anything. And I've caught myself where I'm like, oh, no, I know all about that. And then I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't know that. And so it's part of the reason that I know sometimes it seems so basic when I ask you some of those questions about refinancing a mortgage, but it's really important to understand how to compare and contrast and see if a refinance is right for you at this time. So again, it's not as simple as just saying, oh, well, I can get one interest rate, 1 point lower. It depends on the full picture, and looking at the PMI, private mortgage insurance, the mortgage insurance, MI, or even if it's time to change from one mortgage, as you call it, product to another one. Because the other one that I hear a lot in a refinance is, I have an FHA loan and now I'm ready to refinance out into a conventional. So will you talk just a little bit about I want to say the pros and the cons of going from one mortgage type, like an FHA, into a conventional? What's good, what's bad?
Sure. On an FHA loan, the Federal Housing Administration, it's a government insured loan that no matter what your down payment is, you always have mortgage insurance. So if your down payment, the normal FHA government insured loan down payment is 3.5%. So you're going to have mortgage insurance for the entirety of that loan. If your down payment is 10% or more on an FHA loan, government insured loan, then you're going to have mortgage insurance for the first 11 years. So what if you get to for example, in this scenario, if you get to year 5 and your appreciation or depreciation in equity in your property has increased so to the point where you now realize or come to understand, I have 20% equity in my property. I no longer need mortgage insurance.
Yay!
That's great news.
Yeah.
So you then want to talk to a mortgage specialist, a loan officer, who can then run the numbers for you to show you if you go from an FHA loan to a conventional loan with no mortgage insurance requirement at all, what that option looks like, what that monthly payment looks like, what those closing costs look like, so you can make a wise, educated financial decision. How long will it take me to recoup my money? How much will it save me each month versus how much it costs me? And what is actually the rate difference and the annual percentage rate, all the cost involved in this equation. These are the things that a true loan officer, an experienced loan officer, a mortgage specialist can help answer for you to give you peace of mind that you're making a good financial decision.
And it's so important that you actually are looking at real data and not just a sample example data, like I said, like that marketing mail that you might get that says you can lower your interest rate by 1.5%. And
Right.
you're like, oh my gosh, I'd love to do that. And it's not really true data. So you
Well,
need to
Jennifer,
really
let me give you a quick example. So
good.
someone comes in and they call in, they email, they hear about us. We can do that. We're a mortgage lender. We can do their loan. And they're good. And their first question is, I'm looking to refinance. I've talked to another lender or two. My first response is, can you email or send to me, can you scan to me a copy of your most recent mortgage statement?
Right.
Guess what the general response is? Why do you need that?
Yeah, I've never had anybody else ask for that.
That's right. None of the other lenders are asking for that. And I want that data because it's real, raw data for me to help you determine with real information that I now know, okay, this is what your current mortgage looks like. So I'm looking at your most recent mortgage statement to help you determine on the biggest investment of your life, these real dollars,
Right.
how much money it's going to cost you to do this refinance, what the monthly savings will be, how long it will take you to break even. Without that mortgage statement, I cannot, as a mortgage professional, my team cannot, as mortgage professionals, give you an honest answer on numbers that are not certain.
Right. And I think that that's the thing is so often people are trying to make decisions on either false data or the wrong data or just example data, which again is one of the reasons I brought it up about refinance, because it is a question that's asked so often. I literally get hundreds of emails about this, and it just, I try to answer every single email, and again I forward a bunch of them to you because I'm like, these are just, again, it amazes me because we all need to understand the truth and understand financial, I want to call it financial literacy, because where do we learn this? It's not like we have a morning session every morning. Let's get the updates on all the financial things you need to know, your taxes, your mortgages, your bank stuff. I mean, you have to, legal structures, all of this stuff. It's so important to understand this. And it's one of the reasons, again, that it's so important. So again, we talked about refinance. I'm going to switch gears on us now because I want to leave time at the end for questions for anybody who wants to ask questions. But I want to go ahead and switch to first-time home buyers and specifically to specialty loans. So, of course, the three ones that I want to talk about first is, of course, the veterans loan and the zero down payment with it. Then the specialty loan of the USDA, which people are, oh, like if I'm not a farmer, it doesn't apply to me. Another zero down payment loan. And then third, of course, the FHA loan, and talk about that for first-time home buyers. So I know that was a lot to ask, but
VA loans, Veterans Administration, I think is the best loan program in the marketplace. Number one, because it's an opportunity for us to give back to those who have served our great country. So veterans are just simply important to the fabric of our economy, our culture, our country. And this is an opportunity to give back to them.
amen.
So,
Yay!
so this VA loan has no mortgage insurance.
Yay!
The VA loan for a veteran has no down payment requirement.
Oh, I love it.
Up to 1.5 million.
That is, because
So
I know that was one of the biggest misconceptions I get. If we could think about some of the misconceptions with a VA loan, is that, oh, it's only for people who are buying a house up to like $500,000. And
no,
you just debunked one of those big myths with the
yeah,
VA loan.
yeah. There's so many myths pertaining to what I think is the best loan program in the marketplace, the VA loan for veterans. Can you use your VA loan more than once? Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, that's another one of the questions I get all the time is,
Yeah.
oh, I used it once and so I can't use it again. And I'm like, what? Oh my gosh, yes, you can. I'm just amazed by how often that is something that I don't know. it breaks my heart, because again, it's something that a veteran, I really want them to be blessed with this amazing
Yes.
program and utilize it over and over and over and over.
Yeah,
So 1.5 million, that's huge for
that
a
is
purchase
huge.
price.
That's huge for a purchase price. And, what if I, as a veteran, have used my VA before, and I actually have another property where some of my VA entitlement is partially used? Can I still purchase another home? Well, then the answer to that is yes, you can. Now we need to determine how much of a home you can purchase, even though part of your VA entitlement is tied up in another property that's in another state where you used to live before you were relocated to another area. So it's super critical, again, to talk to a mortgage loan officer, a specialist who can help you walk through these questions and debunk some of the myths that are in the marketplace about this great program.
I agree. I think it's amazing, again, that so many people have misconceptions about the veterans loan. It's a mortgage loan that is just, there's so many parts to it. And of course, there's the streamlined refinance also with a veteran, that I want to mention it in case anyone has ever thought about, wait a minute, I would like to refinance and it's a veterans loan. Oh my gosh, that's a great product as well, right?
And the acronym for that is called EARL.
Earl.
IRRRL, interest rate reduction loan. So you have here refinance loan. So you have here a veteran who's in the property, interest rates an all-time low, who says, wait a minute, I believe that I honestly can save money. So now we're back to that refinance conversation. We want to run through those numbers, see the legitimacy of making a choice to refinance, what the cost would be. And here's the beautiful piece of the EARL for a veteran. No documentation, no appraisal
Oh.
is required. Again, the beautiful benefit of those men and women who have served our country.
Yeah, I love that so much. And again, that's another one that most people don't know about at all, is that refinance, the Earl
Yeah.
refinance. I like it. It's called an
Yeah.
Earl.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to go on to the next one. So the USDA, talk about what is this loan? And it's a zero down, and you do not have to be a farmer to get this loan, right?
No. USDA, rural housing. That is probably the best way to describe it. The federal government has targeted certain areas around the country because of the density and population as rural housing, and they give or allow certain benefits for mortgages for buyers in those designated areas. The biggest benefit is that in those rural housing designated or targeted areas by the federal government, borrowers have to fit within a certain income limit, and they can do zero down payment, which is equivalent to they can obtain 100% financing.
Which is huge. And I think two things in there. I think you talked about income restrictions, which is interesting because the income restrictions, I don't know if you know them off the top of your head, but they're always surprising to me. I want to say that I always think that they're going to be much lower than they are. And then also the definition of rural. I was surprised, as we said earlier, in the Washington, D.C. area, that we have areas that are definitely part of the USDA. And I use my air quotes, rural areas. And I was like, what? Because we're a city, right?
Yeah, in the
Nope.
Washington, D.C. area, there are targeted areas around the Beltway, and one of those other terms we use here in the DMV, around the Beltway in Montgomery County, Howard County, Prince George's County, Loudoun County, Fairfax County. So I just circled all around the DMV so that people, potential buyers and potential homeowners, can look at designated areas where this program allows for 100% financing. And the interest rates are incredibly low very attractive. The program is designated so that it really is focused on the ability to repay. So they're not going to allow someone to be able to purchase a home and have or purchase out of their realm of being able to repay satisfactorily because they don't like defaults.
Right.
So it's a beautiful program, tremendous program, and it's not just for farmers.
Yay! It's not for just farmers. And though if you are a farmer, you should definitely look into it as well.
That is correct.
But it's another amazing program that's a zero down program that so often is, like I said, incredibly overlooked. And it's amazing. So I always want to talk about it. And then the FHA loan, and a lot of people do know about this one, but it is a lower down payment. But the other wonderful benefit, and I'd love for you to talk about some of the amazing benefits of it, is the credit score aspect of this.
Yeah.
So an FHA, you can also buy a multi-unit, right? You can buy 2 or 3 units. Yes.
That is correct.
Ah.
For purchase, primary residence, you sure can. And that's a good point because in certain areas of the country, that's definitely much more attractive than other parts of the country where you can buy a 2 or 3 unit property. But the FHA program, another government insured program I mentioned earlier, Federal Housing Administration, it's a mainstay and a staple program. It's just been around from the beginning of time. The normal down payment is 3.5%. The interest rates are extremely competitive. And here's the critical piece that you just mentioned, Jennifer. The credit scores normally go down to 620. However, lenders, we're one of those lenders, can go down to 600. And then we have other lenders that will allow on this same FHA program go down to a credit score of 580. So there are different buckets that a potential buyer, first-time home buyer, depending upon their credit score, their credit scenario, credit history, can qualify for and fit in one of these buckets: 580, 600 credit score, 620 plus credit score, and still have the opportunity, because this is why you've been in the business 24 years, me 29 years. We love to see people achieve the dream of home ownership.
Yes. And the dream of being able to not only take responsibility for your own home, but I think when people are homeowners, they also take more responsibility for their neighborhood. And right now, I think that's more important than we've ever seen it. It's so important that we're helping out our neighbors and that we're looking for ways that we can take ownership and take responsibility, because to me, that's also the secret to success. And, our communities, everybody connecting and realizing that we are all in this together, in the fact that we're going to have good times, we're going to have bad times, but we need to understand and help each other with our financial needs, with whatever's out there. And there are so many tools. Sometimes I think about it as hidden solutions. We have hidden solutions all around us, and we just need to be able to, one, look, observe, and see what we can see, but also ask for help. And that's part of the reason I'm so grateful to have you come on and talk about it, because we need to look at what's happening, but also ask the questions and not be afraid. I said earlier about sometimes I have had, and I still work through that idea of, I already know all about it, so I don't need to learn anything new. And yet it's so important to take a new look at things, even if you think you already know all about it, because there's something you can learn. And that's just so incredibly powerful. So I love that you said that about FHA loans, because we could have multi-units there. You can have, if your credit score has taken some hits, it's an opportunity to be able to still get into a mortgage. If you're looking for a low down payment with the mortgage, I mean, there's just so many great opportunities.
And can I tell you 2 other caveats of this fantastic program on the FHA? 2 other caveats. that I think are big benefits for where we're going as we progress into the fall and over the next 12 to 18 months. We also have with us here at my company, we have the ability to do an FHA loan at 100%.
Wow.
No down payment. With
Wow.
credit scores down to 620. So under the same FHA guidelines, we have the ability to do an FHA loan with zero down payment.
What about an FHA loan as a second home?
No.
No. Okay.
No. Primary residence only, condo, townhome, single family, or 2-unit, 3-unit. And then the second part of the FHA loan is that we have a renovation program called the 203K.
Right.
So if someone is looking to purchase a home that currently in its present condition needs some work in the kitchen, the bathroom, the flooring, cabinets, countertops, roof, things of that nature, with the FHA loan, again, one of the staple programs over the many decades, FHA allows us to do a renovation loan with the purchase of that property so that someone can get a contractor at X amount of work and include those costs into their mortgage.
Absolutely. I think that it's so important to understand that there is that renovation loan, because so often people are like, oh, all there is available is a line of equity, or, different products that won't be the best benefit for them. And so it's just important to understand that. So I am so grateful. I keep forgetting, but Scott, will you go ahead and share, because we didn't get a chance to go into your story yet. And I do want to see if we can open up for a few questions, but will you share what company you are with? Because we didn't even say it at the top of the hour. And how can people get a hold of you?
Sure. So this is Scott Shelton. I'm the executive regional manager for Security National Mortgage. Excellent company. And I can be reached. The best way to reach me is email scott.shelton@snmc.com. Let me repeat that. Scott, SCOTT .Shelton, SHELTON at S for security, N national, M mortgage, C company.com.
I really appreciate that, because we didn't get a chance to get into that. And of course, I want to make sure that we always answer the questions. And I have so many from via email that I can get into, but I want to go ahead and pop into Clubhouse. And first of all, I'll introduce you to John Lee. He ironically was a mortgage lender years ago, and now I want to say he's happily retired, but his second half of his life, he really specialized in real estate investing, which we didn't get to because we ran out of time. But John also is an educator now, and he teaches people about real estate investing. But I'm curious, John, if you're there, I know sometimes you've got your grandson there with you, but do you have any questions for Scott Shelton?
Sure. Thank you, Jennifer. Hey, great info, Scott. It's really nice hearing somebody that's still in the business. I haven't been there in a while, and I just kind of create my own mortgages now, my own situations. But I just had one quick, I guess it's more, maybe it's a statement or question, but I've had some investment property loans for several years that were adjustable, some of them going back 15, 18 years. And I've always looked at, people have told me for years, oh, you ought to refinance to a fixed rate. And I've looked for many times over the last couple of years, and it seems like by the time I add up, what little bit of savings I'll get on a monthly basis, but I extend my term, unless I want to yank a bunch of cash out, it isn't really worth it for me. Can you talk just a little bit about that? Am I looking at this the right way? Thank you.
Sure. No, that's John. If you ever decide that you want to come out of retirement, let's have a conversation. But great question, John. Most recently, as an investor, I'm sure you know, but recently, within the last handful of months, both Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac imposed a fee on investment properties, much like many months ago, they imposed a fee on refinances, just general refinances, which just most recently, that refinance add-on fee was removed. So, but the fee that Fannie and Freddie imposed upon mortgages for investors still is being applied. Hopefully that'll come off very soon as well. But when an investor is looking to refinance their mortgages, John, as you very well know with your experience, we would want to run through those numbers. And sometimes refinancing to the current 30-year fixed rates costs more money than makes financial sense. So I suggest that if there's a property or two or three or four that you want numbers run on, let's have that conversation and let's put it on paper so that you can analyze yourself. Does this really make sense to do this at this time?
Yeah, I think that's important. Go ahead, John.
Thank you, Scott. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, if Jennifer, if you could maybe on the YouTube channel, put Scott's information on there, if you don't mind, or if you could type it in there for us to have that for reference. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I will. I'll make sure. And I have an amazing video team. I'll put it up on the screen too. So you're going to have it all over the place so that people can see it. And speaking of which, before I go, I'm going to ask David. David Randolph is here with us as well, and he's a real estate investor, and he has such an interesting one. He educates as well, but he really understands mortgages well. So I'd love to have him ask a question. But before I forget, because I've already forgotten 3 times, and I realized I need to not forget one more time. Scott, what are the states that you guys work in for mortgages? Because it's not every state, but it is all over the United States, right?
We do 48. So
48.
We do every state except New York and Massachusetts.
Oh, interesting. I will have no commentary on on why not those 2 states. But anyway, that's good. So for most states, you're going to be able to help people if they're interested in.
Oh, without a doubt. Yes,
yeah,
for sure.
That's awesome. Okay, so David Randolph, if you're there, I don't know if you're just listening, but if you want to hop off your mic and ask a question for Scott.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Jennifer. And Scott, wow, you really sound amazing. I love your experience. I'm a housing provider, so I'm actually in St. Louis, Missouri, not one of those 2 states. So, so we'll leave those 2 states out of the discussion, apparently. But I'm a housing provider. In other words, I'm a rehabber. I buy houses, I fix them up really nice, and I sell them for a lot of money. Now, one of the things that I always try to do is I want to get people into home ownership. And so I'm looking for people with damaged credit, and other things like that to try to bring them in. And what I do in that situation is I want to find out if they can get a loan. And so, are you able to work with rehabbers? So, for example, they might not have good credit now, but I'll put them into my house anyway, and I'll do like a lease with an option to purchase, a rent to own. Are you able to work with us rehabbers to qualify that person to say that, hey, in 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, they, will be in a position, both credit score and financially, to get that loan? Are you able to do that for rehabbers?
Yes. The answer is yes, Dave. We sure can. We can develop and formulate a game plan. So if we speak to that client, that borrower, that purchaser today, run the credit, analyze the credit, and even we have the tools in-house to be able to determine what that particular client would need to do over the next 3, 6, 9 months to get their scores up. And we communicate that in writing to our customers and help them build their credit and help them develop their story so that they can purchase your property. So yes, we are available to help rehabbers, to help you, to help your clients. That would be a privilege.
That's fantastic. So in St. Louis, Missouri, so And all my houses have sold in 7 days or less at list price or higher for 10 years because they're ready to go, drop dead gorgeous. But, there's a lot of people that want my houses. So you're saying that I got your email address, so I could give your email address to my potential buyer. They can contact you directly and then somehow give them their information to you, and you could come back and let me know, should I put them in a house, rent to own, and you could then say this is what they would qualify for.
Yeah, so you would have them contact me, or you would put them in contact with me with a warm email introduction. And then I'm going to have one of my licensed loan officers here on my team reach out to them, get that process started and completed for your customer, and communicate to you where we are and what we've accomplished.
Yay!
Yay! Now we all can say yay! And I love that, because helping people who, again, they need a rent to own because of whatever. Again, this pandemic has made a lot of people in a place where home ownership is just outside their reach, but it's not that far. It might be 3 months, 6 months. And what David is doing in St. Louis is so beautiful, because he really is buying properties, renovating them, and giving people a really beautiful home. I'm going to say it's a happy home because it's beautiful, and because they're working toward that goal of home ownership. And so Scott, I recommend Scott. I think you would definitely enjoy talking to Scott and his team. He's got a really great team now that just is amazing, because Scott got so popular, he got so busy, he needed some people to help with the stuff. So it's really amazing. And I know we're just about out of time. Scott, one of the last things I would say is for anybody who's interested in real estate investing as well. And again, I know we only got a couple minutes left, is I wanted to make sure they know that there are different options out there, because you even have people on your team who specialize for real estate investors. We've talked a lot about the 0 down payments and the USDA and the veterans loan and all that stuff. But will you talk just a minute about investor mortgages? There are ones out there for people, right?
Oh, absolutely. I'd even like to even take a bold statement looking forward and honestly say that the best days for investors are just around the corner.
I agree.
I really do. I mean, whether that's in the next 3 to 6 months or within the next 12, I really do think we're on the cusp of seeing investors really take advantage of our housing market, again, with the hope of building a dream for themselves and a financial legacy for themselves, but also providing, the benefit of housing for folks who need it. So it's a win-win story. But investors, yes, we have several different programs. We have folks here on our team that are just rock stars at providing investor loans and various programs. So definitely feel free to reach out to me. And I think, again, based upon unfortunate circumstances related to the pandemic but where we're going, investor purchasing is going to be a great opportunity.
Absolutely. I agree with you. So I'm going to ask everybody who's in Clubhouse, you got a microphone, hop off your mics. And as we do every week, when we end the show, I always want you to lift your voice and say yay with me. So will you guys hop off your mics? And then, of course, Scott, Shelton, will you lift your voice and let's all say yay as we go off the air in all of our multiple places that we're going. So thank you so much, Scott, and yay!
Yay! Thank you, Jennifer.